At the engagement banquet, my fiancé's white moonlight returned to the country, in front of the city's elite. He took off my ring and slipped it onto that woman's hand. I'm sorry. I've always treated you as her shadow, now that the real one is back. It's time for you to step aside. The woman was wearing the same dress as me, and her smile was openly provocative. In my past life, I begged humbly to keep him, only to become a laughingstock. In this life, watching the look of tender devotion on his face, I only found it laughable, since young Master Gu is so deeply in love. Then this arranged marriage is void. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Hello, Grandpa. Since the Gu family has broken the engagement, I'll be withdrawing the $1 billion investment. Gu Yenting's expression changed abruptly. What did you say? I looked at his pale face with a faint smile. He had probably forgotten that. From the very beginning, this marriage alliance had always been the Gu family reaching up to me. Extend your hand. Gu Yenting's voice was icy, like he was ordering a subordinate. I looked at him and didn't move. All around us were guests holding champagne flutes, and camera flashes clicked non-stop, as if they were recording an execution. He grew a little impatient, grabbed my hand directly, and forcibly yanked off the engagement ring. My knuckles were rubbed red. He turned around and, with gentle slipped the ring onto Lin Wan's finger. Lin Wan was wearing the same designer gown as Meth One Gu Yenting had specially chosen for her, while I was the fool left to foot the bill. Sorry, Shin-Ching. Gu Yenting looked at Lin Wan, yet his gaze seemed to be seeing some priceless treasure through. Her. I've always treated you as her shadow, now that the real one has returned. It's time for you to step aside. Lin Wan nestled in his arms and shot me a provocative glance, her eyes full of the smug superiority of a victor. Sister Ching, even though you bought this ring, Brother Yunt, ING said that only I'm worthy of this Wanyo-Fakian design. The surrounding whispers surged in like a tide. So even the Shin family's eldest miss has come to this. I heard she was the one throwing herself at him. Young Master Gu never thought much of her at all, right? Lin Wan is the one Gu Xiao truly loves. Ching is nothing more than a substitute. In my last life, I fell apart right here, crying. I begged him not to leave. Begged him not to abandon me for the sake of our 3 years together. I humbled myself to the dust, only to be met at the end with a "don't be so pathetic" from Gu Yenting, and a slap from Lin Wan. Later, the Shin family went bankrupt, and I ended up destitute on the streets, watching the live broadcast of their century wedding on the giant screen. I froze to death. In that bitter winter, I was given a second chance at life. Looking at the tender, affectionate face of Gu Yenting, I only felt a surge of nausea. How ridiculous. It was truly ridiculous. I didn't cry, and I didn't make a scene. I even helped him straighten the crooked tie. Since young, Master Gu is so deeply in love. Then this marriage alliance is void. Gu Yenting froze for a moment, as if he hadn't expected me to be so calm. He frowned. Ching, stop pretending to be strong. I know you can't live without me. As long as you behave and listen, I can give you a breakup fee. A breakup fee. I let out a soft laugh and took out my phone. The whole room fell silent. I dialed the number pinned at the top of my contacts and switched on the speakerphone. Hello, Grandpa. An old yet imposing voice came through the phone. Ching. Has the engagement banquet ended? I glanced indifferently at Gu Yenting's face, which had stiffened in an instant. It's not over, but it's gone cold. Gu Yenting said I was a stand-in, now that the real one's back. He told me to get lost. So, since the Gu family has gone back on the engagement, I'm withdrawing the $1 billion An investment we agreed on before. Gu Yenting's face changed drastically. He lunged forward at once, trying to snatch my phone. What did you say? I sidestepped and said calmly into the phone. Grandpa. Notify finance to immediately stop all funding to the Gu Group. Suspend every ongoing collaboration at once. Also, tell the bank that for Gu's loan guarantees, the Shin family will no longer recognize them. There was a 1-second silence. On the other end, followed by an explosive roar of fury. You scum! How dare you bully my Shinshin's granddaughter? Ching ching. Don't worry, Grandpa will make them understand just how high the heavens are and how thick the earth is. The call ended. The busy tone that followed sounded especially piercing in the deathly silent banquet hall. Gu Yenting's face was as pale as paper, his lips trembling. Chin ching. You're joking. Right. That's 100 billion. How could you possibly pull out just like that? I looked at him with a smile, my eyes as if I were looking at an ant. Gu Yenting. You've probably forgotten. This marriage alliance was always your Gu family kneeling to beg me for it. You were the ones reaching up beyond your station. This 100 billion, I'd rather throw it to the dogs just to hear a bark than give it to trash like you. Gu Yenting stared at me fixedly, the tenderness in his eyes instantly turning into terror and venomous resentment. I was far too familiar with that look. In my previous life, when I had outlived my usefulness, he looked at me the very same way. Chin ching, have you lost your mind? This is a business partnership, not child's play. He rushed over, trying to seize my wrist, but the bodyguard behind me shoved him away at once. Gu Yenting staggered back, knocking over the champagne tower behind him. The sound of shattered glass exploded, and the liquor splashed all over him, leaving him in a sorry state. Lin Wan let out a shriek and recoiled in disgust, afraid of staining her dress. This was his white moonlight. When disaster struck, she couldn't even be bothered to pretend. I clapped my hands, and the bodyguard handed over a document. Mr. Gu, this is the termination letter. Sign it. Gu Yenting looked at the document, his hands trembling. I won't sign. Chin ching. You can't do this to me. Our Gu family put all our liquid capital into this project. If you pull out your investment now, are you trying to drive me to my death? I arched a brow. Force you to your death, young Master Gu. That's quite an exaggeration. Weren't you all tough just now? For the sake of true love, you treated money like dirt. And now, with true love in your arms, you've suddenly grown reluctant to part with my filthy money. The guests around us began pointing and whispering. The tide shifted in an instant. So the Gu family has been living off the Shin family all along, leeching off others and still acting so cocky. Does he really think he's somebody important? TSK. Now this is getting interesting. The Gu group is probably doomed. Gu Yenting's face flushed a livid color as he turned to Lin Wan for help. Wan. Please help me persuade Ching Ching. She usually listens to you the most. Lin Wan forced a stiff smile and took 2 steps toward me, trying to reach for my hand. Sister Ching Ching. Brother Yenting just made a momentary mistake. You're still in his heart. I slapped her across the face with the back of my hand. Smack. Crisp ringing. Lin Wan's head was knocked to the side by the slap. She clutched her face and looked at me in disbelief. This slap is to teach you to recognize your place. I pulled out a wet wipe and slowly, unhurriedly, wiped my fingers. A mistress should know her place. Don't go around claiming kinship hose your sister. Also, don't touch me with that hand you've used to handle trash. I find it dirty. Lin Wan's eyes instantly turned red, and tears welled up on the spot as she looked at Gu Yenting with a pitiful, tearful gaze. Yenting, I just wanted to help you. If this had been before, Gu Yunting would have. He rushed over long ago to protect her, but now, he stood frozen in place, his gaze flickering. And surprisingly, he did not move, because he knew that if this slap were paid back, then that 100 billion would truly be gone for good. That was the reality of men. In the face of absolute, so-called white moonlight was nothing more than a bargaining chip to be weighed and measured. I slammed the termination letter into his face, and the sharp edge of the paper cut his cheek. If you don't want to sign, that's fine. Then just wait for the court summons. Also, Gu Yunting, take that outfit off. Gu Yunting was stunned. What? I pointed at the tailored suit he was wearing. Then at the evening gown on Lin Wan. This suit was hand-stitched by an Italian craftsman I hired. And that dress was bought with my supplementary card. Since we've broken up, I'm taking back everything that belongs to me, even if I have to burn it. I won't leave it to you two adulterous dogs. Gu Yunting trembled all over with rage. Chin Ching, don't you go too far. In front of all these people. You want me to take off my clothes? You can choose not to take them off. I took out my phone, opened the banking app, and showed the balance screen. Then give me my money back. 3,800,000 in total. Bank transfer or card? Gu Yunting froze. The Gu family's liquid funds had long since been poured into that massive project. In his personal account right now, he probably couldn't even scrape together 300,000. The entire hall fell into dead silence. Everyone looked at Gu Xiao, who was usually so arrogant and untouchable, now standing at the center of the stage like a clown. Take it off. No one knew who shouted first. Then the jeering rose and fell in wave after wave. Go on, strip. Wasn't young Master Gu supposed to be so spirited? If you're going to live off a woman, then you should have the self-awareness of someone living off a woman. Gu Yunting's face was so red it looked like blood could drip from it. He clenched his teeth and stared at me fixedly. Chin Ching, you'll regret this. He yanked off his suit jacket in one violent motion and flung it hard to the ground. Damn this ragged piece of crap, I don't want it. He grabbed Lin Wan and was about to leave. Wait. I called him back. And the pants. And the underwear. After all, even this life of yours was bought back with money from my Shin family. Gu Yunting was finally escorted out by the security guards. Of course, he hadn't actually taken his pants off, but he had still lost all face, because during the stalemate, his assistant had rushed in a fluster and whispered a few words into his ear. Gu Yunting's expression changed drastically. He didn't even have time to throw out any harsh words. Dragging Lin Wan with him, he fled in utter embarrassment. I know what the assistant said. The Shin family moved swiftly. In just those few minutes, Gu Group's stock had already hit the daily limit down. The bank began demanding repayment. Suppliers started cutting off deliveries. And partners one after another terminated their contracts. Once a domino falls, it can never be stopped again. I stood in the center of the banquet hall, looking at the mess strewn across the floor, yet felt not the slightest trace of satisfaction. Only endless exhaustion and chill remained in my previous life. For this man, I gave up my identity as the heir to the Shin family and willingly retired to the kitchen to become a homemaker. I thought that as long as I was good to him, even a stone could be warmed through. And the result? He took the Shin family's resources, helped Lin Wan rise to power, and in the end, stood on top of my bones to become the business prodigy praised by all. So love really can make a person foolish. Miss Shin. Quite a clever move. A low voice came from behind me. I turned around and saw Ma, and in a black trench coat leaning against a pillar in the corner, idly swirling a glass of red wine in his hand. Fu Yundi, the true prince of the Beijing social circle, was ruthless in his methods. with a background so deep it was impossible to fathom. In my previous life, Gu Yunting's greatest rival was him, but I remember that in the end, Fu Yindi lost miserably, dying in a car crash. Looking back now, that accident probably had Gu Yunting's fingerprints on it as well. Mr. Fu, you flatter me, I replied ly, with no intention of getting close. In this life, I only want to make money and bring down the Gu family. I don't want to get dragged into any man's whirlpool ever again. Fu Yindi walked over, and in the now empty banquet hall, the sound of his leather shoes was especially clear. Miss Shin, I really admire the forcefulness you just showed. He raised his glass in a gesture of invitation. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Interested in working together? I looked into his deep eyes and suddenly laughed. Mr. Fu, I just kicked out one freeloader. I'm not in the mood to keep a second one for now. Fu Yindi froze for a moment, then burst out laughing. Chin Ching, you're a lot more interesting than the rumors make you out to be. He handed me a business card, pure black, with only a string of numbers on it. If you need anything, call me anytime. For example, if you want the Gu family to die a little faster. I took the business card without saying anything and turned to leave. As I stepped out of the hotel entrance, a cold wind head straight at me. My phone kept vibrating nonstop. All of them were missed calls from Gu Yunting and a barrage of WeChat messages. Ching Ching, stop making a scene. I know you're just upset right now. Grandpa's heart disease has flared up. Tell the Shin family to stop at once. Wan is innocent. If you've got a problem, take it out on me and hurt her. Chin Ching, answer the phone. Do you really want to ruin me? Looking at these messages, all I felt was disgust. In my previous life, I was driven out of the house and knelt in the snow all night, begging him to see me. What did he say? Don't dirty the ground in front of my house. Now, he was the one getting anxious. I sent back a voice message, my tone light and breezy. Mr. Gu, we've only just begun. The game has only just started. Back at the Shin family's old residence, grandfather was already sitting on the sofa, waiting for me. When he saw me return, the old man's eyes reddened, and he struck the floor hard with his cane. That beast. I never should have agreed to this marriage in the first place. I walked over, knelt down at grandfather's feet, and rested my head against his leg. Grandpa, I'm sorry. I've made you worry. Grandpa stroked my hair and let out a sigh. It's enough that you're back. Enough that you're back. Our Shin family doesn't lack money or influence. From now on, what kind of man couldn't you find? Why hang yourself from a crooked tree? I closed my eyes, hiding the moisture in them. Grandpa, I don't want to look for a man anymore. I want to join the company and take over the Shin group. Grandpa froze, then was overcome with wild joy. Good. Grandpa has been waiting 3 years for those words. I used to be hopelessly love-struck, single-mindedly determined to become Mrs. Gu, and I paid no attention at all to the family business. Now I've woken up. I want everyone to know that Shin Ching is no one's accessory. She is the sole heir to the Shin group. It was also Gu Yunting's item. The next morning, I stepped into the top-floor conference room of Shin Group's tower in 8-centimeter heels. The moment I pushed the door open, all the directors' eyes turned to me. There was skepticism, contempt, and also quiet observation. I slammed a thick dossier down onto the table. These are all the financial loopholes and evidence of illegal dealings within the Gu Group. Within 3 days, I want Gu Group acquired. Anyone who can't do it can get lost right now. The process of acquiring the Gu family was even smoother than expected. Although Gu Yunting had some ill, he was still young and hot-headed. Over the years, he had grown used to sailing through life on the Shin family's resources, and had never truly experienced a real business war. Once the Shin family's capital chain broke, he was completely thrown into panic. He began frantically selling of assets, trying to fill the financial hole. But that was nothing more than drinking poison to quench thirst. I sat in my office, watching the candlestick chart of the Gu Group's stock prices on the big screen turn red all the way down. Feeling utterly pleased. Mr. Chen. Gu Yunting is Down's Thai. R.S. He says he wants to see you. Secretary Xiao Zhao knocked and came in, her expression a little strange. He said he has a secret about your birth and wants to tell you. My background. I frowned. I was the Shin family's only daughter. That was an ironclad fact. What secret could there possibly be? Let him come up. 5 minutes later, Gu Yunting stormed into the office. In just a few days apart, he looked as if he had become a different person. His beard was unshaven, his eye sockets sunken, and the suit on his body was rumpled and crumpled, no longer bearing the confident, spirited air he used to have. Chin Ching, you're ruthless. As soon as he walked in, he barked. Do you have to take things to the absolute limit? I leaned back in my chair, twirling the pen in my hand. Mr. Gu, business is like a battlefield. If you lose the gamble, you own the loss. Lose. Gu Yunting let out a cold laugh and pulled an old, tattered diary from his coat, slamming it hard onto my desk. Do you think I approached you for no reason? Do you think I put up with you for 3 years? Look at this. Suspicious. I picked up the diary. The cover had already turned yellow, looking as though it had aged many years. The moment I turned to the first page, I froze. It was a photograph. In the photo was a young girl, wearing a white dress and smiling brilliantly. That face was 7 parts 50. Mine. But it wasn't me. On the back of the photo, a name was written. Chinro. Chinro. I uttered the name, and a sudden, intense unease surged through me. That's right. Chinro. Gu Yunting stared at me intently, his gaze carrying a vindictive satisfaction. She's the real eldest daughter of the Shin family. Your half-sister. Back then, your mother forced Shinro's mother to death just to climb to the top, and even threw Shinro into an orphanage. I met Shinro in the orphanage. She was my first love, my light, but she died, killed by your Shin family. Gu Yunting's voice grew louder and louder, nearly a roar. I came close to you just to take revenge on the Shin family. I wanted to make you taste what it's like to lose everything. Lin Wan isn't some white moonlight at all. She's just a pawn I found, because she looks like Shinro. And you, Shin Qing, you don't even count as a substitute. You're nothing but the daughter of a thief who stole someone else's life. Boom. My mind went blank. My hands and feet were ice cold as I clutched that diary book tightly. In my previous life, I never knew about this until the day I died. I had always thought that Gu Yunting loved Lin Wan, and that I had simply lost to a childhood sweetheart. It turned out that from the very beginning, this had been nothing but a complete and utter fraud. This was a revenge long in the making. No wonder that in her previous life, after the Shin family went bankrupt, grandfather had suddenly suffered a heart attack and passed away. No wonder Gu Yunting cowl. Watch me end up living on the streets without the slightest reaction. Because in his eyes, I was guilty. I drew in a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. So what? I lifted my head, my gaze terrifyingly calm. Is this your reason for betraying our marriage and bringing the Shin family to ruin? Gu Yunting froze for a moment, as if he hadn't expected me to react like this. Aren't you ashamed? Everything you have now should have belonged to Shinro. Ashamed? I laughed, laughing until tears were almost about to spill out. I stood up and walked step by step over to Gu Yunting. Gu Yunting, your talent for making up stories is truly first-rate. Too bad. You looked into the wrong thing. I took a paternity test report out of the safe and flung it straight into his face. There has never been any illegitimate are in the Shin family. My parents had a business marriage, but they've always gotten along well. There was never any drama about forcing the first wife to her death. As for this Shinro you mentioned, I picked up the phone on the desk and dialed the extension. Bring up the woman named Lin Hua. Gu Yunting's expression changed. What are you going to do? Let you see the truth. A few minutes later, Lin Huan was dragged in by 2 bodyguards. The moment she saw Gu Yunting, she immediately burst into tears and cried out, "Brother Yunting, save me." I threw that diary in front of Lin Huan. This diary was the one you gave to Gu Yunting, wasn't it? Lin Huan trembled all over, her eyes darting away. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't know. I let out a cold laugh and turned on the projector. A surveillance video appeared on the screen. In the video, Lin Huan was furtively buying something at an old bookstall, and what she held in her hand was precisely this diary. This diary is forged. I looked at Gu Yunting's face as it grabbed. Yuli turned deathly pale and said each word slowly and distinctly. There is no Shinro. And there was never any first love from an orphanage. This was nothing more than a lie fabricated by Lin Huan to get close to you. And you, Guyan Tingjia, destroyed your own fiancé for a swindler. Ruined our own company. And even thought you could bring down the Shin family. Tell me, who's really the joke here? Gu Yunting froze in place, like a petrified statue. With trembling hands, he picked up the diary from the floor and flipped to that page. At the edge of the photograph, there was a line of tiny watermark text. XX Studio. Photographed in 2020. That was 3 years ago. And the Shinro in Gu Yunting's words should have died 10 years ago. No way, this is impossible. Gu Yunting roared in breakdown, suddenly clamping his hand around Lin Huan's neck. You lied to me. How dare you lie to me? Lin Huan rolled her eyes from being strangled. Struggling desperately, I watched this farce of dogs biting dogs with cold eyes, and all I felt inside was a vast emptiness. So in the end, the reason I lost so miserably in my past life wasn't because I wasn't good enough. It was because the one I fell in love with was a complete and utter fool. That's enough. I signaled the bodyguards to stop. Throw them out. Don't dirty my office. Gu Yunting was dragged out, like a dead dog, while Lin Huan was still screaming and trying to explain, her voice growing fainter and fainter. At last, the office was quiet. I slumped in the chair, feeling as if all the strength in my body had been drained away. How absurd. The blood-soaked feud of my past life. The pain. Staking schemes of this one, turns out they all stemmed from nothing more than a clumsy lie. Gu Yunting prided himself on his devotion, seeking vengeance for a fabricated late wife, only to end up being toyed with by a calculating little green tea. And I became the biggest victim in this farce. Mr. Chen, do you need us to call the police? The secretary, Xiao Zhao, asked cautiously. No need. I rubbed my temples, my gaze hardening once more. Calling the police would let them off too easily. Notify the PR department to edit the surveillance footage from just now and put it out there. Make the title, Gu Group CEO rages for a beauty, only to turn out to be a victim of a pig butchering scam. Xiao Zhao couldn't help it and burst out laughing. Understood, Mr. Chen. I'll handle it right away. I guarantee it'll make the trending list. Public opinion is a double-edged sword. Before. Gu why. Unting used it to ruin my reputation. Now. I want him to taste the bitterness of being disgraced and ruined. In less than half an hour. The trending topic exploded. Gu Yunting pig butchering scam. The rich family stand-in romance goes off the rails. Shin Qing. Utterly clear-headed. In the video. Gu Yunting's furious. Choking grip on Lin Wan's neck and the way he had looked at her with such tender devotion at the engagement banquet before stood in stark contrast. The netizens' comments were even more dazzling and varied. LOL. I thought this was a tragedy. See love affair full of deep passion. But it turned out to be an outright scam scene. Does this guy have a screw loose? He turned down the real heiress just to believe some ghost story made up by bargain bin pulp fiction. Lin Wan is quite a talent too. She actually managed to fool him like this. She should seriously write a book. Sis Shin is awesome. This kind of trashy man belongs in the garbage can. The Gu family's stock price was slammed straight into the lower limit and locked there. An emergency board meeting was convened to remove him. And Gu Yunting was kicked out of the game. All the luxury cars and villas under his name were seized by the bank. In the span of a single night. He fell from the clouds into the mud. But I knew this still wasn't enough. A man like Gu Yunting, as long as he still had a breath left in him, would be thinking of making a comeback. I had to cut off all his escape routes. When I got off work, I ran into Fu Yindi in the underground parking garage. He leaned against my car. A cigarette pinched between his fingertips. The crimson ember flickering on and off in the dimness. Looks like Miss Shin doesn't need my help to handle things beautifully on her own. He exhaled a ring of smoke. His voice a little hoarse. I walked over and opened he car door. Did President Fu specially wait for me here just to praise me once? Fu Yindi ground out his cigarette and took a step closer. That overwhelming sense of pressure came again. I'm here to remind you that Gu Yunting isn't so easy to make give up. He went to find someone from the black market. I paused mid-motion and turned to look at him. The black market. Fu Yundi's gaze turned faintly cold. He wanted to kidnap you and use you to threaten the Shin family into investing. I was startled for a moment. Then let out a cold laugh. A cornered dog will jump over the wall. So. Fu Yindi opened the car door and made a pleased gesture. Would Ms. Shin mind having one more bodyguard? I looked at him. The dim yellow glow of the street lamp fell across the side of his face, making his features seem especially sharp and three-dimensional. Mr. Fu. So free these days. The dignified president of the Fu Group. And you want to be my bodyguard? If it's for Shin Qing, I'd be very willing. There was a shade of ambiguity in his words. Impossible to tell what was true and what was false. I did not refuse. After all, at a time like this, safety comes first. Besides, if a toolman has delivered himself to my doorstep, there's no reason not to use him. Then I'll trouble you. Mr. Fu. I got into the car. Fu Yindi curved the corner of his lips and walked around to the driver's seat. The car drove out of the garage and merged into the evening rush hour traffic. Where to? He asked. The auction house. I looked at the neon lights retreating outside the window. My gaze cold. Gu Yunting took the last set of jewelry his mother left him to auction. That was his final trump card. I'm going to buy it back, then smash it right in front of him. The auction house was brightly lit. A blur of fine clothes and elegant figures. Gu Yunting sat in a corner, wearing a basiba LL cap and a mask, wrapped up tightly from head to toe, but I still recognized him at a glance. That air of a homeless, forlorn dog was impossible to conceal. No matter how hard he tried. He stared fixedly at the item on the auction stage, a set of jade jewelry. It was his mother's keepsake. And the only asset he could now turn into cash. Starting bid. 5 million. For Gu Yunting right now. This was money that could save his life. As long as he got this money, he could repay part of the usurious debt and keep surviving for the time being. 5 million. Someone raised a placard. Gu Yunting let out a breath of relief. A trace of hope flickering in his eyes. 6 million. 7 million. The price kept climbing all the way until it quickly reached 10 million. Gu Yunting's hand gripped the armrest of the chair tightly. His excitement plain to see. Just then, I raised the placard. 20 million. The entire room erupted in an uproar. Everyone turned to look at me. Today I wore a red dress and fiery red lips. My aura fully unleashed. When Gu Yunting saw me, his body stiffened violently, and his gaze instantly turned venomous. He hadn't expected me to come. Even less had he expected me to bid so high. 20 million. Going once. 20 million. Going twice. The auctioneer raised the hammer. Suddenly, Gu Yunting stood up, pulled off his mask, and shouted, "I'm not selling it. I'm not selling this thing." The auctioneer frowned. "Sir, the auction has already begun. It cannot be withdrawn. That's my thing. I have the right to decide whether to sell it or not." Gu Yunting rushed toward the display platform, trying to snatch back that set of jewelry. Security immediately rushed forward to stop him. "Mr. Gu, please remain calm. This set of jewelry has already been mortgaged by the bank to the auction house. You do not have ownership rights." Gu Yunting froze. He had forgotten that, in order to plug the financial hole, he had signed the mortgage agreement long ago. Right now, he could not even be considered the owner of this set of jewelry. 20 million. 3 times. Sold. The gavel came down. That set of jade jewelry was mine. The staff member brought the jewelry box to me. I opened the box and picked up the translucent emerald bangle, giving it a shake beneath the light. So beautiful. What a pity it had been tainted by the bad luck of the Gu family. Gu Yunting was pinned to the ground by the security guards, still struggling desperately. "Chin Ching. That's my mother's keepsake. Give it back to me. Give it back to you." I held the bracelet and walked up to him, looking down at him from above. "Gu Yunting, when you trampled my dignity underfoot back then, did you ever think about giving it back to me? When you used my money to keep your mistress, did you ever think about paying me back?" Gu Yunting's eyes were bloodshot. "How much money do you want? Once I make a comeback, I'll pay you back double." "A comeback?" I laughed, as if I had just heard the funniest joke in the world. "Why do you think I'd give you this chance?" I let go. Smack. The priceless jade bracelet fell to the floor and shattered into pieces. The crisp sound echoed through the quiet auction hall, like a resounding slap. Gu Yunting froze. He stared at the fragments on the floor, as if someone had ripped the soul out of him. That was the only thing my mom left me to remember her by. Now it's gone. I walked over the shards with an expressionless face, my high heels grinding over the jade fragments and producing a grating screech. "Just like what you did to me. Once it's broken, it can never be put back together again." The people around us drew in a sharp breath. "Too ruthless. 20 million. Just to hear a peep. That's the boldness of the eldest miss of the Shin family." Fu Yindi stood behind me, lightly applauding. "Wonderful." He leaned close to my ear and said in a low voice, "But it'd be a pity to smash it. Why not ve it to me? I can grind it into powder for you and feed it to Gu Yunting." I shot him a glare. "President Fu, your tastes are really something." Gu Yunting slumped on the floor, muttering to himself, "It's over. It's all over. Without that money, the loan sharks will come knocking tonight." What awaits him will be hell. I turned and left. Not looking at him in. For garbage. Even one extra glance is a waste of life. Yet just as I stepped out of the auction house doors, a van suddenly came barreling toward me. The door swung open, and a few large hands reached out, grabbing me and yanking me inside. Chin ching. Fu Yundi's roar rang out behind me. But all I felt was a violent spin of the world, followed by a handkerchief reeking of ether pressed over my mouth and nose. Just before my consciousness faded, I heard Lin Wan's venomous voice, "Bitch, go die." When I woke, my head was splitting with pain. I found myself tied to a broken chair, surrounded by an abandoned warehouse, the air thick with the smell of mildew and rust. Lin Wan sat on an oil drum across from me, idly toying with a fruit knife in her hand. Gu Yenting crouched in the corner, clutching his head, looking as though he had already broken down completely. Awake. Lin Wan walked over and tapped my face with the back of the knife. "Miss Shin, I never thought you'd end up like this too. Did you?" I shook my head, trying to clear it and wake myself up a little, although my hands and feet were bound. I wasn't panicking, because a miniature tracker was hidden in my earring. It was a habit I developed after living this life all over again to always leave myself a way out, no matter where I was or what I was doing. Fu Yindi should already be on his way. Lin Wan. Kidnapping is a serious crime. I looked at her calmly. If you let me go now, you might still be able to argue for leniency. Leniency. Lin Wan seemed to have heard some sort of joke, and she laughed wildly, her features twisting into a grotesque expression. Chin ching. You ruined everything I had. Gu Yunting is bankrupt, and I've become a rat everyone wants to beat down in the street. What mercy are you talking about? Today, I'm taking you down to hell with me. She turned and kicked Gu Yunting in the leg. You useless fool. What are you standing there for? Get over here and help. Gu Yunting raised his head, his eyes hollow. Wan. Let's stop. Killing someone means paying with your life. Stop. If we stop now, do we still have a way out? Lin Wan grabbed him by the collar and snarled viciously. As long as Shin Qing is dead, the Shin family will be thrown into chaos. By then, we'll take the ransom money and disappear. Start over in a foreign country. You don't love me. For me, you'd do anything, wouldn't you? Gu Yenting looked at Lin Wan's frenzied expression, and a flicker of fear flashed through his eyes. He finally realized that the white moonlight he had once treasured like a priceless gem was, in fact, a venomous snake. I won't do it. I won't do it. Gu Yenting shook his head violently and cowered backward. You useless thing. Lin Wan slapped him across the face, then turned and walked toward me, raising the knife. Since he won't make a move, then I will. The tip of the blade flashed with a cold gleam as it stabbed straight toward my chest. I took a deep breath and suddenly leaned back hard, toppling over with the chair onto the floor, narrowly dodging the strike. Still dare to dodge. Lin Wan was both humiliated and enraged, and lunged forward, intent on delivering the finishing blow. Bang! The warehouse door was kicked open with a single blow. The deafening crash sent dust cascading down in sheets against the backlight. Fu Yundi's figure seemed like a god of slaughter descending upon the world. A squad of fully armed men in black followed behind him and instantly took control of the situation. The knife in Lin Wan's hand clattered to the ground, and she went limp all over. No, impossible. How could it be this fast? Fu Yundi strode over, kicked away the oil drum blocking the way, and bent down to cut the ropes binding me. Are you all right? His voice trembled slightly, and the eyes that were usually so cold were now shot through with red veins. I rubbed my wrist and shook my head. I'm fine. You came at just the right time. I stood up, picked up the fruit knife from the floor, and walked toward Lin Wan step by step. Lin Wan backed away in panic, retreating until her back hit the wall. With nowhere left to go. What do you want to do? Murder is against the law. I laughed. Oh, so you know murder is against the law. I threw the knife at her feet, and it rang out with a sharp clang. Don't worry, I won't kill you. That would be too easy for you. I turned to look at Gu Yunting in the corner. He was curled into a ball, trembling all over. Gu Yunting. This is the woman you chose. She wants your life, and she still wants to drag you down with her. Gu Yunting lifted his head and looked at Lin Wan, his eyes brimming with despair and remorse. Chin Ching, I was wrong. I really was wrong. He crawled over, trying to hug my legs, but Fu Yundi kicked him away with a single blow. Get lost. Yu Yundi wiped the tip of his shoe in disgust. The wail of sirens drew nearer from afar. I looked at the pair of adulterers who had once driven me to the brink of agony, now sprawled on the floor like a heap of rotten mud. At last, the final trace of obsession in my heart had dissolved into naught. Hingness. Gu Yunting. Lin Wan. Life in prison is still long. Enjoy it slowly. This is the last gift I'll give you. Gu Yunting and Lin Wan were taken away, with the kidnapping attempt, plus the earlier fraud and financial crimes. That was enough to keep them behind bars for the rest of their lives. The police car sped away with a howl. I stood at the warehouse entrance, looking at the distant setting sun, and let out a long breath. It was over. The nightmare of my previous life finally came to an end at this dusk. What are you thinking? A coat still carrying body warmth was draped over my shoulders. Fu Yindi stood beside me. He did not look disheveled from the tension just now. Instead, he seemed even more striking, with a sharper edge to his handsomeness. I'm wondering if I'm being too merciful. I pulled my coat closer around me. It carried a faint scent of tobacco. Inexplicably soothing. Merciful. Fu Yindi arched a brow. Sending someone to prison and ruining their family business, this counts as mercy. Compared with what they did to me, this really counts as mercy. If killing weren't against the law, I'd really like to end them with my own hands. Fu Yindi looked at me, and his gaze suddenly grew very deep. Chin Ching, actually, you don't have to be this strong. As long as you say the word, I can help you do anything, even if it means becoming that executioner. My heart gave a sudden jolt. I turned to look at him and realized he was serious. This scion of the Beijing elite was actually willing to dirty his own hands for my sake. Mr. Fu, we don't seem to be all that familiar with each other, do we? I tried to defuse the heaviness with a joke, but Fu Yindi took a step closer, forcing me back against the car door. Not familiar. He lowered his head, the tip of his nose almost touching mine. I've even flown into a rage for your sake. What more do you want? To make us familiar, repay me with your body. His breath brushed against my face, scorching hot. I instinctively tried to pull back, but he had me trapped in his arms. Chin Ching, I've taken a liking to you. His bluntness caught me completely off guard. Starting from the moment you slapped Gu Yunting at the engagement banquet, I've felt ever since that this woman is really something. If you don't want to look for a man anymore, then how about trying to keep a wolf instead? I'm very loyal, and I only bite other people. I don't bite my master. My face felt a little hot. What was this supposed to be? An unconventional confession from an overbearing CEO. Fu Yundi. All I want right now is to make money. I pushed him aside and climbed into the car. Then let's do it together. Fu Yundi didn't even get angry. He walked around the front of the car and got into the driver's seat, with the Shin group and the Fu group joining forces. The entire Apple circle will be ours. When the time comes, you can play however you want. It had to be said. This proposal was very tempting. Joining forces was indeed a lot more satisfying than going it alone. Then it all depends on President Fu's performance. I fastened my seatbelt. A faint curve playing at the corner of my lips. The car started up and headed toward the Shin Group building. As we passed the giant screens in the city center, they were broadcasting the news of the Gu family's bankruptcy liquidation. The image of Gu Yunting being escorted into a police car flashed by an instant. His gaze was hollow, as if his soul had been drained away, and I, seated in the front passenger seat of a Maybach, was speeding toward the business empire that belonged to me. In this life I won, and I won beautifully. The Gu family was completely finished. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Those who had once flattered the Gu family were now trampling them harder than anyone else. Father Gu was overwhelmed with rage and suffered a stroke, leaving him paralyzed in bed. Mother Gu wailed and pleaded everywhere, begging people to lend her money. But she couldn't even get through the door. This is reality. When you stand at the top, everyone around you is a good person. Only when you fall to the bottom can you see who is human and who is a ghost. I didn't wipe them out entirely. I simply had someone acquire the bankrupt fringe company of the Gu family and turn it into a public restroom. It was called Yunting Public Toilet, open to the public for free, for the benefit of the citizens. It was said that on the day it opened, the line of people stretched on and on without end. Everyone wanting to experience the thrill of running wild over young Master Gu's head. I was in my office reading this report, laughing so hard my stomach hurt. President Shen, that was ruthless of you. Little Zhao was pouring me coffee as he tried, unsuccessfully, to hold back his Lao Guider. But it really is satisfying. This is called making full use of everything. I took a sip of coffee. Wasn't Gu Yunting most fond of putting on airs when he was alive? No. That's not right. Before he got hauled into the police station. Now that his name is hanging on a restroom door, I guess that counts as making him famous for all eternity. At that moment, the front desk called, Mr. Shen. Gu Yunting's mother is causing a scene in the lobby and says she wants to see you. Send her up. I set down my coffee cup. It was time to settle this once and for all. When Mrs. Gu came in, I almost didn't recognize her. The once elegant and dignified Mrs. Gu, who used to look down on everyone with her nostrils turned up, now had gray hair and outdated clothes, looking like a down and out, ordinary old woman from the STR. Eats. The moment she saw me, she dropped to her knees with a thud. Ching ching. It's all Yunting's fault. Every last bit of it. I'm begging you. Please show mercy and spare our family. Yunting is going to be beaten to death in there. Can you withdraw the lawsuit? As long as you do, I'll make him serve you like a slave. I watched her perform coldly. In my last life, when I was driven out of the house, I had knelt before her just like this and begged her. This was what she said. Jinx, a husband-killing wretch. Get lost. They even had dogs set on me. Now, the tables had turned. Mrs. Gu, please get up. I made a perfunctory gesture to help her, but I didn't actually go to her aid. Yunting's public toilet business is doing quite well. You should feel relieved. After all, this is the Gu family's only remaining enterprise. Mrs. Gu's expression stiffened, and then she cried even more fiercely. Ching ching. How did you become so heartless? You weren't like this before. The Shin Qing from before is already dead. I cut her off, my gaze cold. taken from you by the Gu family's own hands. The one standing before you now is Shinqing, chairwoman of the Shin Group. You want me to drop the lawsuit? Fine. Gu's mother's eyes lit up. Really? As long as you can turn back time, keep your son from humiliating me at the engagement banquet. Keep him from using my money to support a mistress. Keep him from trying to kidnap and kill me. If you can do that, I'll drop the lawsuit. Gu's mother collapsed to the ground, her face ashen. EW, it was impossible now. See them out. I waved my hand. The security guards came in and carried Mrs. Gu out. Her cries echoed down the corridor, shrill and pathetic, yet absurd. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down at the city below me. The Gu family, which once made me look up in awe, was now nothing more than a speck of dust. This feeling of holding destiny in my hands was truly wonderful. The phone vibrated. It was a WeChat message from Fu Yundi. A photo. In the photo, he was standing at the entrance of the Yunting public restroom, flashing a peace sign. Caption: Mr. Chen, here for an inspection, and conveniently to use the restroom. Excellent experience. I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. What a childish fool. Still kind of cute. Are you free tonight? He sent another message. What for? Celebrating the grand opening of the Yunting public restroom. I'm treating you to a meal. I thought about it and replied with one word. Sure. Fu Yundi took me to a private kitchen restaurant. The surroundings were peaceful and secluded, with no outsiders to disturb us. Qing. Let's get married. Just as the dishes were being served, he dropped a bombshell. I had just picked up a piece of braised pork when my hand trembled, and the meat fell onto the table. Mr. Fu, if we're eating, then let's just eat. Don't tell ghost stories. I glared at him, looking miserably at that piece of meat. I'm serious. Fu Yundi set down his chopsticks and looked at me with burning intensity. Isn't a marriage alliance between the Shin family and the Fu family a union of strong forces? Just sound business logic. And besides, he paused, the corners of his mouth curving into a wicked smile. I think we're a perfect match, whether it's building a career or dealing with people. I had to admit, what he said made sense. After spending this time together, I realized that Fu Yundi was indeed a pretty good partner. Smart, ruthless, yet with boundaries. Most importantly, he understood me, without me saying much. He could grasp every glance I gave, every move I made. That kind of unspoken understanding was something a fool like Gu Yunting would never be able to comprehend. Marriage is fine. I wiped my mouth and resumed my negotiating stance. But I have conditions. You go ahead. First, a prenuptial property notarization. The Shin Group is mine. The Fu Group is yours. Neither of us should even think about the other's money. No problem. Fu Yundi agreed without the slightest hesitation. Anyway, all my money will be yours in the future. Second, we won't interfere in each other's private lives. If one day there's no love left, we part on good terms. Don't pull those ridiculous scenes of crying, making a fuss, or threatening tea. Oh, hang yourself. As for that, Fu Yundi rubbed his chin. I'll try my best to control myself from falling too deeply in love with you, so I won't end up crying too ugly later. Third, I looked into his eyes. I want to be the real Shinqing, not anyone's wife. Fu Yundi smiled. He reached out and took my hand in his. Deal. Shinqing, you will always be yourself, and I'm nothing more than the one who bows at your feet. In that moment, I heard the sound of my own heartbeat. Perhaps this is what love looks like for adults. No thunderous vows of undying devotion. Only a balanced, mutual becoming. Neither of us needs to cling to the other. We are two trees standing side by side. No matter how fierce the wind and rain, we could still stand together against them. The wedding was set for a month later, grand, solemn, and enough to stun the entire city. That day, I wore a pure white wedding dress and, holding Fu Yindi's arm, walk Ed down the long red carpet. Guests on both sides were applauding and offering their blessings. There was no mockery, no disdain, only envy and reverence. I saw Shin Group's stock price scrolling across the big screen, climbing to yet another all-time high, and I also saw the confident, beautiful version of myself reflected in Fu Yundi's eyes. This was the life Shin Qing should have had, not that pitiful wretch who had humbled herself to the dust for the sake of a man. When we exchanged rings, Fu Yundi said to me in a low voice, "Thank you for letting me beat Gu Yunting." I smiled and slid the ring onto his ring finger. "No. You defeated yourself, and I defeated the whole world. In this life, I had not only exacted my revenge, but also gained a career and love. Maybe, anyway. The days are still long. Let's keep walking and see, as long as there's money in hand and someone by your side. Even if it's hell, you can carve out a road lined with blossoms." The end.